Hello everyone, my name is Will, and welcome back to the Wise Words of Will, where I give you advice that is hopefully wise. I've had to do that like 10 times because that does not roll off the tongue to me for some reason, but today I'm going to be talking about something that is a bit of a heavy hitter for me, which I just kind of now realized how funny it is that I decided to wear this shirt when talking about a video this heavy, but here we are, I guess, lighten the mood a bit. Today I'm going to be talking about health anxiety. Now, this is something that for everybody, I think it stems from a different place. It really does vary person to person. For me, I think it's honestly mostly an OCD thing. There are plenty of other people with health anxiety that don't have it in terms of OCD. It is like just the anxiety around having a certain illness, and both are equally valid. They just kind of present in different ways. But I'm going to be talking about this from the perspective of someone with OCD. So my journey with health anxiety is something that is quite interesting because I had like small bouts of it all throughout my childhood, and like they weren't like anything like really big, but the way that I would put it would be like, sometimes if I got like a scrape or a cut or something, I would get like really in my head about it and get in these like intrusive cycles of thinking, oh, that's gonna get infected, and kind of just like repeat that in my head over and over and over again until eventually, I didn't get an infection from it. I had stuff like that fairly often, but it was not really that big of a deal until I was in middle school, and that's really where it gets really bad. In the summer of 2013, I moved across the country, so there was a lot of stress on me already, but I also was having a lot more alone time than I was used to having, so that kind of opened up the doors for a lot of my mental illnesses that were kind of covered up by being constantly busy. It allowed those to come out a bit, and health anxiety was one of the biggest out of all of these. The first big bout of it was in early 2014, where I was getting these headaches, which, looking back, I mean, the reason was obvious to me why I was getting them. I was drinking Mountain Dew like crazy and staring at a screen all day, which that'll do it. It was this really strange thing in my head because I just got this gut feeling that it was a brain tumor. See, the thing that was so unique about this, and I think a big reason why I didn't identify it immediately as OCD, despite knowing even at that time that I had it, was because it wasn't even necessarily an anxiety feeling. It was like full on accepting that I was dying from it. And that is something that is like, it kind of gives me chills to look back on, because that was really one of the first times that OCD was extremely deceptive to me, because it can just present in so many strange, unique ways. And that was one of them, where it was just like I got so in my head, and I went the next couple years just genuinely believing that I was dying from a brain tumor. I genuinely believed it for 2 years straight, and I didn't tell anybody about it. Like I was even like thinking about how I was gonna have to say goodbye to people and stuff. It was really, really bad, and I don't know if it necessarily ever got better, but it kind of just like moved on to different things. But this was one of the weirdest ones for me, especially at that time, because again, like I said, it didn't feel like OCD. It felt like grieving, It was like, okay, I'm dying, and now I'm grieving over it, and I thought about it all the time, all day, every day. And it ended up making me depressed because, again, I genuinely believed it. Where this moves on to is later that year, I had my first bout of panic attacks, and this was the worst my health anxiety has ever been in my life, was in December of 2014. So I don't really know exactly what caused this bout to start. I really don't know. All I know is that there was one day where I was just like sitting at my computer and I had a heart palpitation, but I didn't know what that was at the time. Because of that, I believed I was having a heart attack, so I had a full-blown panic attack. And after that, I spent the entire rest of the month having panic attacks every day, thinking that I was having heart attacks. It felt like each consecutive episode was worse than the previous one, because I just genuinely believed I was having heart attacks, and that is absolutely traumatizing to deal with, because when you're that age, most people at 14 don't have panic attacks thinking that they're having heart attacks. I didn't know that's what it was. I didn't know. And it was genuinely traumatizing. I went into the new year in a very strange headspace, I don't think it takes much imagination to understand why that would be. But it was really strange, because for the most part, the panic attacks kind of stopped at the beginning of the new year. And I was just sort of left in this weird state of being scared, because I was just like so hyper aware of my body, and like it felt like every single little thing was something going wrong. It's like after that episode, for a while it was less like full-blown panic attacks and more like random like anxiety flares of like, oh my god, I have this issue, I'm dying, and there were some really bad ones throughout that year. But I would say from 2015 up until like 2017, that's basically what it was. It kind of did in some ways correlate to the amount of stress that I was feeling at that time. So I would say, like, if I was like in a calm point in my life, I still usually for the most part did have like one health condition that I believed that I had, but it was like something that was always like in the back of my mind, and I genuinely believed it. And that's something with health anxiety that's very difficult to deal with. We always have this like one condition that like we genuinely believe will never go away, and we can't let go of it. And for me, that jumped around a lot. Again, like I would go between thinking I was having brain tumors to things like schizophrenia and bipolar. I mean, like I've had that with quite a lot of mental disorders too, which is exhausting, because when you have that level of OCD with things that you feel in your body, it's like, how do you ever know what's real and what isn't? It's genuinely a really scary thing to live with. And, I had bouts of feeling like I was having appendicitis, and now even now, if I get like a pain in my lower abdomen, my mind will go there first. It's like I don't have like the health anxiety panic attacks anymore, really, but I still all the time will have like a small sensation in my body, and I will think my brain will immediately jump to it's something really bad. And I still occasionally have like those periods of time where I'm like grieving over possibly having a disease or something. I know that there's a lot of people that have this issue that don't have OCD, and it's just health anxiety, like I said earlier in the video. And I'm very curious how that feels and plays out in someone that doesn't have like the OCD aspect of it, because for me that's really the majority of what fueled it, because it was a lot of feeling a symptom and then looking up that symptom online and then trying to get reassurance that I didn't have it. And that was something that I did constantly, like sometimes several hours, day after day. I still catch myself doing that every time I feel something in my body. It's one of those things that I really want to stop doing, but it feels like it's so deeply ingrained into how I think that it's just like it can be very difficult some days. And I've had to get counseling for it, and I've just never really found anything that like completely shuts it off. OCD is very weird with its symptoms and the way that it shows itself, because I've known people that have beaten health OCD and have never had it again. But I've known people that have just always had it kind of subtly there. And like if you have like a good grasp on your mental health, then it doesn't really ever get super bad. It still can, but for the most part, it's just sort of like this like nagging thing that won't leave you alone. That's kind of been my experience with it. Now, in terms of what helps health OCD, now if you have it at any level, I would strongly suggest getting counseling and medication for it, because OCD is one of those things where if you are trying to do it by yourself and do it and fix it by actions alone, really the only thing you can do is not give in to the compulsions. But I would be willing to assume that if you're watching this video that you've tried that. So I would say that the next step would definitely be get a counselor and get on medication. OCD is one of those mental health issues that really it gets to a certain point where you really should not try treating it without meds, because it's so deeply ingrained into how we think. It's one of those things where I understand that counseling is scary and medication is scary, but there's unfortunately just not really a whole lot else you can do about it. And OCD can be one of those things where it's like the longer that you go without treating it, the harder it's going to be later. So it's really a good idea to try to get a handle on it as quick as possible. If you have any questions, feel free to comment and I'll try to answer as best as I can. And yeah, thank you for watching.